I'm Megan.
I'm Christy.
And we are
Homebrew
Murder Crew.
We're the MICROBREW.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, I can't do it. Right.
I can only do it with this hand. I can't do it with my other. Oh, no, I can't do it with this hand.
I can do it.
I know.
I did it.
Anyways,
hi.
It's a MICROBREW.
It is a MICROBREW. Move quickly, it said. It wants us to get on with it.
Yeah,
so
apparently.
For this episode, so I caught this idea from Morbid's Listener Tales.
Oh.
They had their little ghost Hubie on, and they had a spirit named Nicholas joining them. So I thought that it would be kind of fun because it's a microbrew to see what... If there's anything that pops up, especially if we're talking about Mordor. Oh, see, it doesn't like it when you put it beside other electric devices. Yeah, so let me move this. Okay, so what do you got for us?
I have today the story of rap.
Grab.
Oh, I thought it said rap. I was like, this is the story. I'm just kidding. Charles C. Morgan.
I want to stay.
You can stay then.
You can stay then, yep.
Maybe it's going to be too distracting.
No, leave it on.
Okay.
It's a microbrew. So Charles C. Morgan, known affectionately by his friends and family as Chuck, so we're going to refer to him as Chuck Morgan from here on, was a 39-year-old successful businessman who was the president of his own escrow agency in Tucson, Arizona. By all accounts, he appeared to lead a normal and relatively unremarkable life. However, the events surrounding his disappearance and death suggest that there may have been more to his life than meets the eye. Chuck was also a potential witness in a state land fraud case involving an unknown organized crime boss.
Ooh.
So on the morning of March 22nd, 1977, Chuck left his Tucson, Arizona home to drive his daughters to school. After dropping them off, he vanished without explanation. 3 days later, on March 25th, 1977, in the middle of the night, Chuck's wife, Ruth Morgan, was woken to the sound of a thump on her front door. Ruth's account was that, quote, I was in bed and the dog started barking. I got up, went to the door, opened it, and there was Chuck. He was missing a shoe and had one plastic handcuff around one ankle and a set on his hands. When he motioned to his throat and didn't say a word, I asked him, "Can you talk? Can you write?" And he shook his head, yes. So I went and grabbed a tablet and a pen. He wrote that his throat had been painted with a hallucinogenic drug and that the drug could drive him irrevocably insane or destroy his nervous system and kill him. I wanted to call a doctor and the police, but he was adamant that would be assigning a death warrant for the entire family, unquote.
I think I've heard about this case before.
Okay.
Also, when you started talking about how there was a knock on the door and everything, this said demonic.
Oh, I love it. Okay. I'm going to download this app. Is it free?
Yeah.
God, we're not... Sponsor us. I'm just kidding. According to Ruth, Chuck was...
Prayer.
A religious woman. Yeah. According to Ruth, Chuck was missing just one shoe and he had a broken plastic handcuffs on one ankle and his wrists were zip tied. He was unable to speak and communicated by writing that he had been drugged with a unspecified substance. It was also reported that Chuck asked Ruth to move his car because he did not want them to know that he had returned home. However, he would not say who the them are.
How is he driving his car when his wrists are bound and wild?
This is wild. He also told her not to call the police because a hit would be put on them, like him and his family.
Oh my God.
A cryptic explanation that only deepened the mystery.
Yeah, what do you do? Come inside.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
We're good here. Thank you for
I'm good.
The week following his return, Ruth claims that she nursed her husband back to health. During that week, he was not talking at all and would communicate with her through cryptic messages that he would write. And he began to hint to her that he was working as a secret agent for the federal government. Ruth reported that he, quote, he wrote, "They took my Treasury identification." That was the first I'd heard of it. Then he told me he had been working for them for about 2 or 3 years, and that was it, unquote.
Sir, you're going to need to do a lot more explaining than that.
Yeah, but he doesn't. Ruth found it hard to believe that he was working for the government, but still, it was a fact that Chuck was on the edge of organized crime in Arizona. He had done at least one real estate escrow work, had worked one escrow job for one mafia family.
What is escrow? Like the official definition.
Escrow. We're Googling it. Escrow is a financial arrangement where a third party, the escrow agent, holds funds or assets on behalf of two parties involved in a transaction until specific conditions are met.
Oh, so it's kind of like a trust type thing.
Yes.
Okay. Bird.
Freaking weird. So he had also previously told Ruth that there was some money laundering going on, and that he was aware of but not involved in.
That's a problem. That's right.
That is a problem. The presence of plastic handcuffs fueled speculation about the nature of his abduction and his potential involvement in clandestine activities. Following his alleged abduction, Chuck Morgan became increasingly more paranoid. He grew out his facial hair to an attempt to mask his identity, and he also began to wear a bulletproof vest everywhere that he went.
Oh my God.
He also began to always drive his daughters everywhere, like to and from school. He informed the schools not to let anybody else pick them up other than himself.
Inside.
No, we don't want to.
I'm not coming inside.
2 months following his bizarre disappearance and reappearance, on the morning of June 7th, 1977, Chuck Morgan, his new routine, drove his daughters to school. But on this day, he did not return home after he dropped them off. Shortly before this second disappearance, Chuck told his father that if anything were to happen to him, there was a letter he had written that would tell them who was responsible. The letter was never found. However, 9 days following his disappearance, an unidentified woman contacted Ruth by phone and said, quote, "Ruthie, Chuck is all right." Oh no, how do you pronounce this word? Escalastics?
Oh my God, it's a biblical.
Yeah.
Ecclesiastes
12, 1 through 8. Then she hung up. So Ecclesiastes, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing it.
Ecclesiastes
12, 1 through 8 is a reference to a Bible passage which reads in part, quote, "Men are afraid of a high place and of terrors on the road. Remember him before the silver cord is broken and the golden bowl is crushed. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and a spirit will return to God who gave it," unquote.
Oh my God. I hope you know what? If I know that I'm going to die, I'm going to make some weird, like,
cryptic Bible passage,
treasure hunt type thing, you know, for everybody to, like, decode something. I don't know. Definitely. Yeah.
I'm guessing that the spirit that's with us right now.
What's your name? You can tell
us your name.
Tell us your name when you're ready.
Okay.
We'll continue.
So 11 days following the second disappearance of Chuck Morgan, on June 18th, 1977, 40 desolate miles west of Tucson, Chuck's body was discovered. He was wearing his bulletproof vest, a belt buckle that concealed a knife, and a holster. Chuck Morgan had died from a single bullet fired at close range into the back of his head. The bullet came from his very own .357 Magnum. which belonged to him and was lying beside him.
I'm wondering if I'm thinking of the right case. Is there like a piece of money that's got something written on it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no fingerprints, not even his own, were found on this gun.
What the fuck? Huh? Stop recording.
Why?
I think we'll be okay.
Why?
Why do we need to stop recording? All right, continue.
Okay. We're just going to continue until you tell us why.
Yeah.
So no fingerprints, not even his own, were found on the gun, which is weird. So obviously it was wiped clean, which after he shot himself.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways.
If it was a suicide, yeah.
Sorry. I kind of got ahead of myself here. So gunshot residue was found on his left hand, though. There we go. Indicating that he had fired the weapon. But if he had done so, like, how could he have wiped the fingerprints off and shot himself in the back of the head?
Right.
Anyways.
Like,
in his car.
Was his like left hand? Like, is he? Do we know if he's right-handed or left-handed?
I think that comes up actually. I don't.
Okay,
I don't remember what I wrote. Anyways. So in his car, police found a note that had directions to where they found his body written in his own handwriting. Also found in his vehicle were several weapons, ammunition, a CB radio, and strangely, a piece of one of his teeth were found wrapped in a white handkerchief in the back seat of his car.
Okay.
A pair of sunglasses was also found that did not belong to him.
Correct.
Even more perplexing, Chuck had clipped a $2 bill inside his underwear, and written on the $2 bill were 7 Spanish names from the letters A to G. Also, the reference to the Bible passage, which is, I can't pronounce this word.
The clip
is Ecclesiastes 12. Was written on it with verses 1 through 8 marked by arrows.
Run now.
Drawn on the bill's serial number. This was the same reference that the female who had called Ruth had mentioned to her. On the back of the bill, the signers of the Declaration of Independence were numbered 1 through 7. Also, a crude map was drawn, which showed several roads between Tucson and the Mexican border. The towns Robles Junction and Saspi were marked. These towns are apparently known for smuggling. 2 days after Chuck Morgan's body was discovered, an anonymous woman contacted the Pima County Sheriff's Department by telephone, and she claimed that he was supposed to have...
want it.
No, I don't want it.
You want it?
I don't want it. Ew.
I don't want to come in. I don't want it. I'm not going to stop recording.
No. Jesus. This is a saucy...
Don't even tell us your name. Jeepers.
Yeah. So she said she was supposed to meet him at a local motel shortly before he died. She claimed that her nickname was Green Eyes and that she was the same woman that called Ruth several days earlier. She also claimed that at the motel, Chuck showed her earlier that Chuck had showed her a briefcase containing several $1,000s in cash. He said that the money would buy him out of a gang contract that had been put on his life. Despite all the bizarre details surrounding his death, authorities ruled Chuck's death a suicide. However, the county medical examiner's office listed it as an unsolved death.
Right. Like,
yeah, but like the police, the sheriff's department didn't want to acknowledge it as anything other than a suicide.
Sounds suspicious.
Sure does. More suspiciously was that he had, like, prior to his death, he had, like, just testified in a secret state investigation on illegal activity on both sides of Arizona and the Mexico border, and told people he was working undercover with the Treasury Department. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said Morgan had been hiding out at a West Side motel, the same one he was supposed to meet Green Eyes at, more than a week before he died. So he'd been missing for 11 days.
Yeah.
The second time that he went missing. So he was hiding out with the belief from the details that they had gathered from this anonymous woman, they believed that he had unalived himself because of financial difficulties or fear for his safety.
From who? What?
Well, this alleged gang contract on his life.
Yeah, but so it's like, let's look into that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that obviously the belief, the sheriff's department is not even considering it, but his family and a reporter named Don Devereaux believe that he was murdered, or but agreed because he had just testified in this super secret case against a lot of really potentially dangerous people. So the possibility of him having a contract on him is very likely. Yeah. Very likely. So also some of the investigators on the case, despite what the sheriff's department had declared, had also said that they had suspected that his death was not just simply a suicide. Wow. But the sheriff's department was adamant that they were no longer going to further investigate.
Definitely.
Agreed. The details at the scene whispered a different story. A glaring anomaly was the absence of any fingerprints.
Yeah.
No, I don't want it. Any fingerprints on the very gun that supposedly ended his life. Right. This inexplicable lack of prints immediately raised suspicion, hinting that someone else might have handled the gun, adding to the enigma of the cryptic message on the $2 bill tucked away in his underwear, a bizarre collection of clues that defied easy interpretation. Perhaps the most jarring detail of all, the one that screamed against the suicide narrative, was the bulletproof vest that he wore. Yeah. Why would a man intent on taking his own life deliberately don protective gear? Right. This single fact injected a heavy dose of doubt into the official ruling, suggesting a scenario where Chuck Morgan anticipated danger, a confrontation or an attack. Adding to this, shortly after Chuck's death, his impounded car was broken into while it was in police possession.
That's suspicious.
Around the same time that his car was broken into, his office was also ransacked 3 weeks after his death.
Dude, somebody's looking for something.
Yeah. 3 weeks after his body was found.
I want to stay.
No, you can stay.
You can stay.
2 men claiming to be FBI agents arrived at Chuck Morgan's home. They told his wife, Ruth, that they had to look through the house. She allowed them to. She said that their visit, quote, they opened and closed their identification very fast. They said they wanted to come in and look through the house. They never said what they were looking for. And to this day, I don't even know what they were looking for, unquote. They tore the house apart and searched for quite a while. It is unknown if they ever found anything or if they were even FBI agents. A reporter named Don Devereaux, who became pretty obsessed with the case, contacted the FBI regarding this visit. And he wrote in a blog page or something that, quote, when I made a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, they had never heard of Mr. Morgan. Despite the fact that they obviously opened an investigation, despite the fact that they interviewed Mr. Morgan's attorney, they were all over this thing like a blanket for a while. But now they've never heard of the guy. He never existed. No card, no file, no nothing, unquote.
What the fuck?
This case originally aired on Unsolved Mysteries, which is where I found it. So the original case aired February 7th, 1990. After the case aired, so a lot of the details that I had just brought were never mentioned in the original airing of it because it all came to light afterwards. Yeah. Because that was when Don Devereaux started to investigate a little bit more, and he started to investigate some of the leads and stuff that were.
What a good name, by the way, Don Devereaux.
Yeah. So Unsolved Mystery received several calls relating to Chuck's death. Reporter Don Devereaux investigated several leads based off of the information that came in from the airing of this, and came up as a result of the program. He learned that Chuck was heavily involved in money laundering activity through his Tucson escrow company.
Oh,
okay, then go. Stop interrupting me. Just kidding. From 1973.
do you want me to turn it off?
No, I was kidding. Okay. From 1973 to his death in 1977.
Now you're possessed by demons of the past.
Still won't tell us his name or her name. He was also involved in a large gold and platinum transactions. He apparently received a large amount of money from these activities, and some of his money allegedly came from Southeast Asia. Don Devereaux discovered that Chuck kept
the East India Tea Company.
Probably. Possibly. The Don Devereaux also discovered that Chuck kept duplicate records of the illicit transactions. Don Devereaux now believes that Chuck was killed because he still had these records. And that's what they were looking for.
Yeah. It would let her.
I am. 3 months after the broadcast, so the night of May 14th, 1990, 35-year-old Doug Johnson set off for his night shift at a computer graphics company. Around midnight, Doug was discovered lifeless in his vehicle, parked within the very company lot he was heading to.
I'm sorry, who is Doug?
We're going to find out. A single gunshot wound behind his left ear had silenced him forever. The shot delivered from a distance at least a foot. The initial assessment by authorities was suicide. However, a closer look at the evidence painted a far more sinister picture. Doug was right-handed, yet there was no telltale gunshot residue on his hands. An almost impossible scenario for a self-inflicted gunshot. Gunshot. Most crucially, no gun was found at the scene. That's a pretty big indication that it wasn't suicide.
Unalive yourself with a gun.
Unalive yourself in the back of the head, at least a foot away.
You're like,
without a gun.
Yeet, and then you die.
Yeah, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
Obviously eliminated the basic element of suicide. Despite these glaring inconsistencies, authorities remained unable to definitively classify Doug's death as either a suicide or a homicide, leaving a cloud of uncertainty. So if they're a tragedy.
If they're thinking suicide, then though, I know they haven't they're like, well, but then what is your answer for why there's no gun there if it's suicide?
Yeah, that's the strangest thing again. But here's the thing, and this is where it ties into the story of Charles C. Morgan. A chilling parallel emerged in Doug's life. His uncanny resemblance in his both home, where he lived, and his vehicle to the journalist Don Devereaux.
Oh, no.
Who lived across the street from the very parking lot where Doug met his untimely end. In 1991, Don Devereaux's pursuit of the truth in the death of Charles C. Morgan led him to connect with another writer, Danny Colasaro, a writer for Washington, D.C. Don Devereaux agreed to share his findings on Charles' money laundering and gold transactions. However, tragedy struck once again. So before Don Devereaux could even mail his research to Danny Cosalero, Danny was found dead in his hotel bathroom, his wrist slashed.
Oh my God.
Although his death was officially ruled a suicide, Don Devereaux strongly suspected foul play, a sentiment echoed by Danny's brother, who described him as an intensely squeamish and afraid of blood. Traits that made his self-inflicted wrist slashing highly improbable. 6 months after Danny's shocking death, Don Devereaux received unsettling news from another journalist. A hit had been placed on him, but Doug Johnson had been mistakenly targeted.
Holy fuck.
This revelation cast a dark shadow over Doug's seemingly random murder, which it sounds like it was a result of mistaken identity. This suggested that, which had devastating consequences, further collaborating the danger Don Devereaux faced by investigating the death of Charles C. Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
A CIA official and an informant for Israel Intelligence Independence confirmed the existence of a death threat against Don Devereaux because of his search into the death of Charles C. Morgan.
But by who?
Nobody knows.
Oh my God.
The death of Charles C. Morgan, Chuck Morin, remains one of Arizona's most perplexing mysteries and cases.
This is seriously like a movie script.
I know. The circumstances surrounding Chuck Morgan's death are shrouded in mystery, leading to such speculation and debates. For Don Devereaux, however, the pieces of the puzzle clicked into a horrifying conclusion. Doug Johnson was an innocent victim, tragically killed in an botched assassination attempt meant for him. Doug's untimely death, along with the unsolved murder of Charles Morgan and Danny Casolaro, remains haunting testaments to a danger of web and secrets and violence, leading to a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives.
Wow.
To this day, this case is just a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is considered closed. The sheriff's department is not investigating. Don Devereaux continues to investigate it, but hasn't made any leads.
He's still doing it even after that. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, and it has.
How bad must he, like, I would be so
terrifying.
scared, and then I'd feel so bad that it was meant for you, but somebody else, but like, oh my God.
No. So,
Also, quick question.
yes.
Why did they call it unsolved mysteries? Because if it was solved, it wouldn't be a mystery.
True story. True story. Sometimes.
You are just repeating yourself.
Yeah.
I don't believe nothing you're saying.
What is on the table? Why do you not
Come
want to
inside?
record?
Stop recording. Leave here. Yeah.
Anyway, so that is all that I have for you. There's nothing really new. Like, it's ruled a suicide, despite the chief medical examiner saying that it's not.
Well, and how can you continue to believe that when there's like
because they obviously
the hit on
know more than they're saying.
I know, but like if we're speaking like you're innocent or you're not involved in any cover-ups or something, then like how come Don Devereaux is getting a hit on him?
Yeah.
For looking into this. Obviously, like we're not dumb. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you have any?
Mine?
Do you have any?
I think that I think that he was actually like a snitch,
mm-hmm.
and that he had given up some information to the FBI on some pretty shady characters, and it cost him his life.
Yeah.
And because Don Devereaux obviously was starting to make like some pretty accurate connections, finding out about all of the money laundering and stuff like that. Like if he continues to delve into this and use the connections that are now dead, that other reporter that they were going to share information, he might have been able to uncover something. So a hit was put on him. But
what about this bill though? That's got all that stuff written on it. I want to look at that, and we should all decode it together.
Will. So like during the time that this happened, like there was a lot of mafia activity in Tucson at the time. Yeah. And like I said, like it was a fact that Charles Morgan was a witness in a case against something but it's never been announced who. All that like we kind of gather is that it's obviously somebody within the mafia.
Right. I think one of the most like peculiar things to me is when he was explaining that they painted his throat.
Yeah. Like with a hallucinogenic drug.
Like painted. That's weird.
That like if he were to
sticks with me
or something, it would cause him to go insane.
Right.
Maybe that's what happened, and that's why he wrote all those weird things on the bill. And then
maybe, but then why? Who's Green Eyes, and why is she reciting the same Ecclesiastes or whatever it's called?
That's
gymnastics.
No idea.
Bible gymnastics.
They didn't investigate. They didn't investigate any of it because they obviously like they're keeping quiet. If they are investigating it, they're keeping quiet, but they're like definitely trying to cover this up and trying to hide it, like whatever this is. Like they've connected with this unidentified woman. They've got all this evidence, yet they're like, no, it's a suicide.
Right.
He unalived himself.
Man.
And then wiped the prints off the gun.
Right.
After he shot himself.
And then yeeted it. Well, the other guy yeeted it.
And that guy, unfortunately, was a mistaken identity.
Right.
He drove the same style, color vehicle as Don Devereaux, the reporter that was starting to kind of make some headway. Like, because he became obsessed with it.
That's crazy that he's still like that. That hasn't deterred him at all. I want to see like, we should look him up and see where he's at with that.
Let's see. Let's do it right now.
Don Devereaux. I fucking love that name.
Me too.
It'd be a good name for a character in a book. Devereaux.
Don Devereaux.
Devereaux. Donnie boy. Just sit here and sing for y'all while Megan looks this up. That was a really good case. Yes, I remember seeing it on Unsolved Mysteries, and definitely you brought more since that episode aired. So thank you for that. But I was like, this sounds really familiar. And that bill in his pocket really stuck with me. And I would love to decode that. And I think we should get all of our listeners to help.
I agree.
I wonder who they have. Like, I wonder how many people are looking at that and trying to figure it out. Crack the code.
I can't find anything on like anything recent.
Well, maybe we'll look into it further and then we'll update y'all on Patrons.
Yeah. He's
on the Patron.
Don Devereaux is a veteran. He is an Army veteran and an investigative journalist now living a quiet life in a Yountville Veterans Home. His life, however, was anything but tranquil. He served in the military during the height of the Cold War, watching B-52 bombers loaded with nuclear weapons take off and land from an airbase 950 miles from Russian airspace. Then he spent the next several decades investigating and reporting on corruption and organized crime in New Mexico and Arizona, where he was the tragic target of 2 assassination attempts.
Dude, Devereaux.
Another journalist's murder. That would have probably been Danny Casolaro. Also, he sorry. Highway 29 Media reported Marlia Gomez writes about the Napa County Suicide Prevention Council's work to train hundreds of local residents to recognize and respond to signs. Oh, that's it. That's all it says about him.
Wow, 2 assassination attempts. Dude. He does not live a dull life at all. Yeah. Devereaux, man.
Yep. Wow, that's crazy. Crazy. There's not much on him though. Like, here we go. Don Devereaux. Devereaux reports. Don Devereaux is a graduate, long-term member of investigation.
Does he look as cool as he sounds? Yeah. Oh, look! He looks like the guy from Jurassic Park
now, or something. I think he does. Yeah, he was born in not born in 1962. He was alive in 1962. Yeah, but there's like nothing. Let's see. Don Devereaux.
40s.
Wait, no. Chuck Morgan. Let's see. 2025. No, nothing. That's crazy.
Megan,
yes.
Where are you with your private investigator thing?
Oh, I'm still like, I am just not in the right mind space to take the course.
Okay.
Are you?
No, not yet.
No.
But well,
I'm doing it still. I think.
Nolan doesn't want me to do it.
Oh, really?
But I am my own person, and I make my own money.
My family
That we
is
share?
very much in support of it.
That's amazing. Good.
Yeah. So
I'll probably do it anyways. It's $200.
I'm just waiting until like all of the shit that I'm dealing with right now kind of slows down. I've got a lot going on. My parents are moving across the country. I'm moving. I'm in the middle of transitioning between jobs. It's just shit.
But hey, you know what? When you guys get your camper and you park it at the farm, we can study together at the farm.
It's going to be great.
And record at the farm.
And do other things at the farm.
Yeah.
Like drink.
And campfires and
some aloes.
Firecrackers, sparkler things.
Sounds awesome. I'm excited. Anyways, there's my microbrew.
Amazing.
I thought that was going to be a full episode. Like, what a psycho. Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, there's no like updates on this. Like, obviously nobody wants to investigate it further based on what happened to Don Devereaux.
Fucking Don Devereaux.
Yeah,
he's a hero.
Yeah, I can't believe it, man. Still kicking.
Well, thank you so much, Maya.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome.
Please remember to listen to the red dress episode.
Yep. And Christy's amazing episode on the Boston Tea Party, which you can find on regular where you find your podcasts. This is a microbrew. Oh, later.
But if you're on Patreon, you're going to have it already.
Right.
So
if you're on Patreon, make sure you listen to her Boston Tea Party episode.
It's terrific.
Thanks, Christy.
Okay. That was seriously the best, though. Anyways, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.